Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Shapes 2 video. Today we'll be diving into the side tasks, I believe, of Milestone 6. Now, in a previous video, we've just finished making a paint mixer platform, which we then used for the most recent milestone, and now we'll be making more use of that moving forward. Okay, we've just loaded in, and this is our previous milestone continuing to be made here, and we've still got ourselves 12 full belts. Now, it is possible for us to simply keep this running indefinitely because of the operator levels here. Now, we're not able to unlock that just yet until we've unlocked our milestone, which would be a smart thing to do, but I'm not going to bother with that just yet. And instead, we'll start working on these next side tasks. The latest of which is number 19, titled the Asteroid Hunter. So we're going to need 3 of the new colors that we're able to get from our color mixing platforms. Now, off camera and in between the last video and this, I just designed one extra blueprint, which we can see. I'll show you guys in just a second, but at the moment, this is how we're making our white. We're just chaining 2 color mixes together and then creating a white, like so, using all 3 primaries. Having 2 of the primaries combined to a secondary color, and then adding that secondary color to our 3rd primary. And the blueprint that I've recently made is down here. And this is a slight alteration of our previous blueprint. So that's the one we did together on the recording. And this second one is simply split that into half. So the left hand side is creating one primary color, and then that primary color is being fed back into the right hand side, which is also being fed from the 3rd primary color that is being inserted into the top of this platform, and then those 2 are mixing together, so the teal here and the red, to create one pipe of white. So this is an even input usage here, using 50% of these launches of each color and producing white at the end. So it's a more compact version of what we were doing previously with the 2 separate platforms to create white. And I've just saved this one in our painting folder as the paint mixer white with this icon. And I've just changed the icon slightly of our paint mixer to indicate that we can easily get 2 lanes of any of the primary colors with that. Oh, wait, that's not right. We want secondary colors here. So let me go ahead and change that quickly. Okay, so I've just gone ahead and changed this here. And we're looking at the yellow is, the code for that is Y. The code for teal is C for cyan. And I believe purple, the code for that is M for magenta. I think that's right. In any case, that's how I was able to make that shape with that code, and just chuck that in there. But enough of that, let's go ahead and start making some of these side shapes. And to do that, while leaving this running, we might go ahead and make up another railway setup, perhaps somewhere else nearby, so that we can leave this ticking along. So give me a moment and I should have that set up for us. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'll just show you guys the steps that I'm taking in creating a new workstation. So I've gone ahead and found 3 new shaped islands of each of the full shapes. So that the gears, the hexagon, and the flower, and this is north or west of our base and quite a far way away as well. And there's probably another patch closer, but this is the one I found and it's all quite conveniently placed. So I've been able to easily set up 3 sets of loaders in each of the shape positions, and I've also slightly redesigned this, so with the flower needing to be loaded into the 3rd carriage of the train, we've set the loader and the routing up in this configuration with the stops 1, 2, 3 tiles to the right of the loader. So it's loaded in the 3rd carriage. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. And then what I've done is I've highlighted this whole thing and I've saved it as a blueprint. So any new flower island that I find, I can just simply place that there, and that is going to set it up in this configuration, so I don't need to worry about putting the train stops in the right places anymore. And I've done the same thing for the other 2 here. So for the hexagon, we want it in the 1st carriage of the train, so the train stop goes immediately to the right of the loader, and I've saved that. And I've done the same here. So I've saved the gear configuration as well. And that can easily be found under the extract folder and each of those, like so. Now I'm going to go ahead and do something similar for the 3 different paints, because each of them have different, the primary paints that is, they have different stop positions as well. So I've set up the same thing for our 3 separate colors, blue, green and red. But of course you're going to come across this sometimes. We've got a fairly small paint island here. So when we go to put our blueprint in, it's not going to let us do the whole thing. I'm holding down shift now, which will let us place at least most of it. And the simple solution to that is to simply go ahead and place what we can, trying to get at least 2 full stations in, as you can see here. And then for the 3rd, we can just simply copy this, including the first 3 pipes, delete whatever's left here, and then just paste it somewhere else in this island. So that's going to work just fine. And then of course pipe the green paint down. That's a very small alteration to our otherwise very fitting blueprint designed for green. And we'll do the same over here for our blue one, like so. That's only just not able to fit, unfortunately. So we'll put 2 in and do the same thing over here. Copy that, rotate it with R, and then pipe it across. Perfect. So now we have all 6 of our extraction and pump stations ready for our new hub. We just need to connect up the paint line and connect up the shape line, and then add some trains. I'll do in a moment. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've now set up just a very basic train line. So these three colors are now being connected with the one train line, and then this is going to be our little hub here. So we've got the shapes coming in from the top. They're obviously connected by this line, and the reason why this rail is doubling back on itself is because we want the shapes in this order: the hexagons, the gears, and then the flowers. And if we were to have those stops, let's just remove that and put it here. Even if we flip it and put it around, that's going to have it in the reverse order. Now all of a sudden the far left is the flowers and not the hexagons. So that's why we've done that. It does add a little bit of extra time to our train journey, but that's a minor inconvenience for uniform positioning. And the same thing obviously is happening here with the paints. We want our red paint to be at the top, then the blue, then the green, hence the double back. And of course we could shorten these if we wanted to cut down on the train trip a little bit, but I prefer the aesthetics of that, I think. Actually, that doesn't look bad either. Maybe we'll leave it like that. We could even shorten these a little bit as well. And we can, obviously, if we wanted to, always extend them out so that we can add more stops in that line if we wanted to. We won't do that for now. And of course, we still need to add the trains, which I'll be doing as the next step. Okay, we've just added the trains now. Let's have a look at them. Oh, let's restart that. Let's have a look at them all launch, one after the other. So I've designed it in this configuration just to make it look a little bit more visually appealing. There's nothing wrong with that straight shot. And of course they're going to patiently wait for one another. There's not going to be any issue there. And as they load up, then they can shoot off onto the rest of the track. And I haven't saved this blueprint yet, but I have saved the other. So I've got anytime I need to make a new hub or anything like that, I've got 7 liquid carriage trains ready to go, and I can just put that on the end of any one of my liquid train tracks. And I'll save this as well similarly, but of course these have the shape cargoes attached. Perfect. So with 7 trains, this is already full stacked, of course. So it may be a bit different when they come back, but they're at least all able to fill up on this shape, and they'll be doing the second and third, and of course dropping off all their cargo at these positions here. First that stop, and then the second, once that fills up, which should be quite soon. And the liquid trains should already be doing the same thing up here. Like so. I had these running just before we set up the shape trains, and we've got these here set up already. Fantastic. And now we have a brand new working station for some of our side tasks. Now of course we don't have the hub here, so before we start building anything, I'm going to go ahead and create a second train line that's going to pick up all the shapes that we create, and it's going to transport them all the way. Where is our hub? It is a fair journey, but all the way down here to our hub, and then it can just drop them off somewhere around here so they can get funneled in. So let me go ahead and set up that train line with the additional trains necessary for that, and I'll get back to you guys in just a second. Alright, so I've built the new train line that's going to grab the output of whatever we put in here, and it's going to shoot it down all the way down to the hub. Now I've decided that because most of our shapes that we're going to make are eventually going to be stacked on top of each other, we're going to end up with a lot more input than we do output. So I've just made the trains one carriage long, just added a few of them, and then all the inputs are going to be like so. Now this won't work for every task, and it won't be particularly good for these because we're delivering 3 different ones. So what I've decided to use this particular setup for is this hub here. So I can just copy and paste all of that and throw that up here instead, and then we can work on our side tasks back here next to the hub. And the reason for that is because we only need 4,000. So if we were to create all of those way back up here, then we're going to end up making a great excess of each of these, because it's going to take just so long for the shapes that we make here to be all the way delivered down to a hub. Whereas this milestone shape, although we're not currently able to unlock it, I think it goes on indefinitely and just keeps increasing. So that's something safe that we can throw out of the way. So that's the theory behind that. It does mean that we're going to need to add a 3rd shape train stop up there in the other route, but that's perfectly fine. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, copy and paste all of this, and then we can see how well that works out for us. So I'll meet you guys back at the 2nd workstation. Alright, so we're back now at the northwest workstation, and we've copied and pasted one of our milestone designs in here, and we've just rerouted the paint because these things are in different positions, and we've added a 3rd shape station here. Now I've noticed that we're running out of paint here, and we may possibly, I think, run out of shapes too, particularly the hexagons. And I'm also noting that most of our loading stations, let's see, the hexagon, yeah, even the hexagons are still overfilled. So what I may end up doing is, instead of having the default blueprint of 7 trains, we could bump that up to 9, or perhaps even 11. And that may be the sweet spot for a 3 saturated train line. That also depends on how long they are. So I might go ahead and do that and adjust those train blueprints accordingly, just so we have an easier setup. Does that look right? I think that's what we're looking for. And if I go back here, why is it 2 different ones? What's that? It looks the same. So I believe we are indeed creating the right shape. We've got this being loaded up now, and soon we'll be unable to unleash our stream of mini trains. and that timing is going to be very poor for this sort of long track design, so we'll probably end up changing that as well, but for now, let's just send them. Now the rest of those are just going to go away with nothing until they return, which is a long way, but I'll deal with that in a second. First, let's sort out these extra trains here, but I'll do that off camera. Okay, so finish that. So now our blueprints have 11 each, which will increase the throughput of our shapes and liquids. And oh dear. Okay, I've got my clipboard back. I just had to make another one. So I'm just playing around with this design here. Obviously that's not very helpful because the trains will go one after another directly. So what instead I prefer to do is I'll set it up in something like this configuration. So the subsequent trains that will be appearing are gonna have a delay. Now obviously it looks like they're really close right now, but that's because we're in a loop. So if we place it again, that first one, maybe the loop isn't the best visual. So we'll just create a straight line. The first one is going to come out when we paste the blueprint. And it's getting maybe up to here before that second one is able to come out and fire away. So it's going to have a decent delay between the two trains rather than all of them. Where are they? All of them. Why did they have the shape? Oh, did I not route that? No, I didn't. Of course. It's supposed to go into that. There we go. In any case, so none of those trains should actually be returning with any shapes. But instead we have 3. And then I got another 2, 3 trains following right behind it and 1 in front. So they're all 7 of our trains currently are on just the one little track here. One part of a very big, massive track, and we want them more evenly spaced out than that, of course. So with using the train stops in mind, let's go ahead and make a blueprint that's going to help stagger these trains, at least to some degree. Alrighty then, I think I've come up with a design that's going to help delay the trains. So obviously our initial one was simply reusing the shape and liquid train lines, but that obviously doesn't work well. I was just playing around with this second design here. Now, ideally wanted to keep a similar format, but this doesn't work for one main reason. Both the bottom and the top side, each of these trains are still synced. So we're going to have 1 and then 2 go at once they've both stopped along here. Let's just cut that and paste it so you guys can visualize what's going on here. And of course these 2 trains are going to be synced as well, which is bad. We don't want them synced, we want them desynced. That's the whole point of this new design. At least each stage is significantly slower than the one before it. So this train, obviously it's going back and forth, but in the real world scenario it'll be continuing down that line. But then that's the problem with this design. We've got 2 trains going at the same time. Not ideal. So to fix that, what I've ended up doing was just connecting them all to the one line. Let's cut that. I'll just flip it. So we have our first train going straight away. Oop, sorry about that. Our first train going straight away is going down its line, and then all the subsequent trains. This next train in the series only needs to stop 5 times, but the one above that has to stop a total of 10 times. So he's got his own 5 stops, and on top of that, he's then being chained onto this next set of 5 stoppers. So each train is offset by an additional 5 stops. And that way, they're all going to be obviously setting off at different times, hopefully giving this train loader enough time in between to load up its next packages. So with all of that now explained, we can get rid of this first iteration and then copy and paste this second instead of using that. As pretty and as streamlined as that is, it's not very functional. So let's go ahead and replace that. Okay, so I've placed this just a little while ago, and then I've named it Red Trains Long Distance. Should probably add the amount of trains that it has. And although I placed this about a minute ago, we still have half the trains waiting to be launched initially. Now, unfortunately, this loader isn't able to keep up still. Let's at least kind of give it a much more even output, rather than having them all the trains come in such quick succession. Maybe every 2 or 3 trains will have enough time to load up. And that one just missed it. The next one should get it. So let's have a look now at our trains. We got one here, one here, one here. So they're much more evenly spaced out now, whereas before we had all 7 in like this one little segment. So that's now improved a good amount. We even have one coming back along the line already, and a second one. Brilliant. Fortunately that one's empty, so is that, but the third one has been able to take something. Perfect, and now the second one has 2. Excellent. And so that's the last train that's now leaving. And when is our first train returning? Here we go. So it's about 3/4 of the journey, roughly, very roughly, when the last train leaves. So we could add a few more, but let's get rid of that, don't need that anymore. We don't really have the shape reduction rate to sustain more trains because we're not currently filled up yet. So I'm happy to leave that as is. But now we have set up our second hub, second workstation, and that's just going to be producing this milestone shape for us. Now, finally, after all that, we've cleared up the space to start working back at our hub with these pin tasks. Now, of course, we don't need this anymore, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. We've already replicated that up north, so we can start working on our other tasks. Goodbye. Okay, so let's start with the simple ones. They're all simple, obviously, but let's start by simply cutting. So let's go to our cut, and we want that shape. And we get 6 outputs. In retrospect, let's not start with cutting. Because we're not combining any of these, that is simply a single output there. What we're going to do is color them first. Otherwise, we don't want to have to be coloring 6 different shapes, even though they're 1/6 of a full one. Rather, we just want to color it once, and we can cut it already colored. So let's do that instead. I'll go ahead and create the necessary mixing, and then we can pipe that across once we're finished here. Alright, so by combining each of our primary colors twice with one another, we've come up with all three of the necessary secondary colors that we need. So we've just routed red into two different color mixes, blue into two different color mixes, and green into two different. So the yellow's being made with red and green, purple with red and blue, and then teal with blue and green. That's the first step complete. Now we just want to set up 3 different painting stations where we can then pipe these colors into the correct shape. Now we have the painting stations put into place and routing each of the 3 colors to their respective there we go, the respective colors here. Now the simple last step is to cut these up appropriately. And the one we'll need for that is this monstrosity here. It's going to be a bit pressed for space, I think. We're also not going to have nearly enough inputs to our hub if we want to have 6 of each of these for each belt. So instead, what we'll do is we'll just borrow 2 platforms from each of this blueprint, and then just have it deliver at a reduced rate. So let's go ahead and set that up. But we're not even really going to be able to do that because we currently only have 3 other inputs. So if you want to do these all at the same time, you can simply remove 3. Now of course, each one of these is only going to use up 1/6 of a full belt, but it will produce a full belt of the individual piece. So let's just do that instead. And that way we'll be using all 3 of our inputs here. And then I can route these ahead of time straight into the hub, like so. Let's watch this work. Just very slowly cutting the whole shape, one piece at a time, and then recombining it. So we see here, we've got a full belt going at maximum current speed capacity. However, at the start here, we see that the belt is moving very, very slowly. That's the way it was designed. This is supposed to be able to handle like that. And then you can just route all of those in, and they should all be going at full speed. But of course, we just don't have the means to put them into our hub at the moment. But that doesn't really matter because we only need 4,000 of each. So just a little bit of patience, we'll be able to complete that quite quickly. For demonstrative purposes, I might as well show you guys. And this design can handle 6 at once. Now it's obviously going to take a little bit of time for it all to filter down into these last few because of the way that we've routed it. But a better routing system, slightly better, would be that. Wait. something like that. Even better still, can be something like that. Doesn't look particularly nice, but that would work. So now that all of that, oh no, that's still being pulled up. We select all of these. Ooh. Yep. Now these are all going at full speed. Oh, until it backs up, of course. Let's do this. And then cut the whole thing and put it back. There we go. It's all moving along nicely now. But of course we don't need any of that. And we don't even need any of this anymore. That was completed quite quickly. But that's the basic setup of this side task. Asteroid Hunter. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Let's go ahead and pin this next one. Galactic Lotus. So this next shape here, we're going to need blue, teal, we have white in this next one, then we have an uncolored flower, but no teal, and then we have the colored flower now being painted teal or cyan, and then we just have blue and white again. But fortunately for us, these are all just basic shapes. We don't need to do anything with any of them. I suppose this side task is just getting us used to painting and being able to route different paints into different sections, and of course a decent amount of stacking. So because these are all full shapes, we're going to want to color them first. We don't need to do any cutting or rearranging before we do that. So let's go ahead and remove this. Of course we don't need any of that, but we may keep this for now. And of course we need the painting platforms, pardon me. So the hexagon, which is these boys here, we need 2 lots of them. We can route a second one from over here. One of them is going to be blue and one of them is going to be teal. Let's go ahead and route our colors in. And before we do that, let's clean this up at least a little bit. So we'll keep the yellow station here in case we need it for a future side task, but we don't need it to go any further than that. We definitely need this, but we don't need the purple either. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. And instead, we want the blue, which we can channel through here. And it's getting a little bit messy now, but that'll work just fine. Next up, we'll take this teal and we'll pipe it across here, set up another painter for these second hexagon shape, and then we'll add the required paint to that. Let's temporarily get rid of all of that. And what we first need to do is simply stack this shape on top of this one. That's not supposed to be yellow, so let's just clear that with I. There we go, and that should come out blue next time we see it. And in the meantime, let's get our stacker, and we want the right on top. So we can belt these across now and stick it in here. And then that goes straight to our hub. So that should autocomplete soon. The second thing that we want to do is change this color to white. An easy way to do that is to combine any of the secondary colors together, or one of the secondary and one of the primary. So we can go ahead and put another paint mixer up into this section here, and that's going to combine both the teal and the yellow to create our white. So we can slot that in now. And then once that teal shape is complete, we can remove that bypass and instead bring our white pipe and connect it up like that. But for now we'll leave that as is. We're setting up for this next shape here. Now let's have a look at this third shape. Now it adds another two, one being a plain colored flower and the one below it being a blue colored gear. So with those two new shapes in mind, we can temporarily bypass this painter with our uncolored flower. That's going to want to go on top. And then with our gear shape, we want blue, as we just discussed. So we can belt that in here and get these starting to paint. And then we want the uncolored on top of the gear, so we can put a stacker here, but let's get these out of the way first. I love that feature of, it's pretty soon, of automatically placing tunnels. That's fantastic. So if we bring these two together now, and we want the right on top, so we'll copy that stacker platform. What is going on? That's right. These painters should have some of the paint of our previous design still in them. So even though we routed the blue, these painters still had teal. But now that we've cleared it, they'll have blue ready to go. So we've unlocked our first stage, which means we can now get rid of the teal bypass. And instead, hold on a sec. That's not right. Why is that green? Really? Well, I did not know that that happened. So okay, maybe this was changed a while ago, or maybe I'm just not remembering correctly. But apparently yellow and teal create green. Not what we want, of course. So let's go ahead and what we want. We've got blue and green already, which is making teal. So let's get rid of the yellow and instead put in red. That should definitely give us the correct white color. And I've just pressed I. I selected all of this, pressed I to clear everything. Now let's baby this and make sure that we're producing the right color this time. That's looking better. Okay, fantastic. We've got our white coming through. Important to note here, we are creating 2 full pipes. I have the potential to. So I believe we are eventually creating a white flower as well. So we won't need a second mixer. We'll just need to route one of these to that flower painter. So once this finally comes through, I'll select all of that just to speed it up slightly. We'll press I here. It should get rid of the rest of the teal paint. So I saw a little bit in there still. Anyway, and then we'll start creating this next shape. And we've already started creating this stuff that's supposed to go on top. But we need this first. Let's just have a look and make sure that's coming out the right way. It's a bit hard to see. But yes, that looks right. And then those two should be being combined as well. So let's get a third stacker. And let's put it down here. That goes on top. This can be funneled through. Once it's all white. And then that can also be thrown in here. So now we should be making both of these at the same time. And that should basically be it. We just got a little bit of waiting to do for those to fill up. And I'll come back to you guys in a moment. Alright, so we're back after just a few short minutes, and we've completed the next 2 stages of our shape. Let's go ahead and unlock these 2. Now our final 2 require small changes. First, the flower to be teal on top, and then it instead to be changed to white. And I believe that's the only difference here. So let's go ahead and start both of those. And when I say both, what I mean is one at a time. So we've got the teal here. You can simply route that to the right. And rather than bypassing this painter, we're going to stop that and instead have our flower go straight through. And then attach that up like so. Now, importantly, do we have enough teal? I believe so, I hope so. Is that all working? We're currently getting purple, so that's not good. That would be from our last build. Maybe I should have just cleared the whole thing, or at least cleared all the painters before building anything else, because otherwise you get stuff like that, which puts us behind a little bit. But no matter, oh my goodness, it's still happening. Those painters were full as a goog of purple paint. There we go. Alright, we got there in the end, guys. Excellent. Okay, so that should be chugging along now. And we should soon start to see that counter rising. Whoa. Thanks, Steam, for interrupting that. That was odd. Okay, so where are we? Is there a reason it's not counting up? Okay, we've got a lot of crosses. Why is that? Okay, never mind. Must have been the purple just finally filtering out here. Ah! But we are still delivering the shape that we've already completed, and we've forgotten to get rid of that line. So let's do that. That would have been throttling us, or would be very soon. So we should have a full belt of that now. And we'll start the routing for this final shape. It's very simple routing, we're just using the white paint rather than the teal into this flower here. So one of the full pipes will be going up and to the right here. We won't need the combination up here, and then the second pipe is going to wrap around here. We're a bit pressed for space at the moment, so I'll leave that as is, and then we might just shift all of this over to the right, to the left one, when we've finished all of our teal flowers, which should be happening pretty soon. Alright, that teal section is done now, so we can go ahead and remove the teal routing. Well, we will be into in just a second if we copy and paste that over to the left one and reposition these two paints. So we're still making our white. One full pipe is going up to the right here to continue painting our hexagon, and then the second pipe is replacing the teal, and that's going in to finish up that final shape. Let's go ahead and wait for that white to start mixing and being piped through, and we should see that counting up eventually. In fact, rather than just pausing the recording and wait for that to resolve itself, why don't we go ahead and start designing the new modular factory for our next and final shape for this video, the layered petals. So we'll go ahead and pin all of that. We can unpin that and that'll come back up when we start counting in automatically. So our final shape will require 2 separate flowers, 1 hexagon, or should I say 1.5 hexagons. Okay, and nothing different beforehand. And the first shape is going to be the hexagon and flower, which will eventually need to be painted. Okay, good to know. Let's start. So because we know that this hexagon is going to need to be painted eventually, let's start off by putting a painter in. So we'll need both of these shapes here, and then we can just bypass the painter for now. As for the first flower, it starts off painted and stays that way. So we'll copy and paste the painter here. We obviously need pipes. They go the right way, of course. And I've already forgotten. What we have been doing and will continue to do is stagger the painters so that we have easy routing available to us. Alright, so this pipe is going to be red for the flower, and that will eventually be yellow. From in there, we have both of our outputs of our shape, and we need to stack those. So we'll grab the stacker. But we want the hexagon on top, which is on the left here. And the flower, which is going to be on the right. So the left on top, which means we're going to select this stacker and throw that down. Now this is just a temporary bypass because the first shape is uncolored, but we're planning ahead here. So the hexagon goes in on the left, the flower goes in on the right, and then that's going to come out on the right here. And that's going to go straight into the hub for that first shape and also the second. So this is going to be coming in colored and uncolored initially until we max out this, and then we can just delete that like so. As for the third shape, we have a second flower coming in, and that's going to be at the bottom. So let's add a second stacker. I'm going to place it here, and we want the left hand side, because the flower is coming from the right, a white painted flower, and that's going to be on the bottom, so we want the left on top again, so we can reuse this stacker and put it in here. Now obviously we still want these two being counted in, so we'll bypass that as well. I'm just thinking that through. If we put it all together all at once, we're going to result with some of these shapes having an uncolored hexagon. So what we might do, is that. Okay. So we won't have any of that being channeled in until this is completed. And then all we need to do to change this is add that like so. And once that second shape is completed, we can get rid of that bypass entirely. Great. So the white flower comes in through here. The other two shapes already stacked going on the left, and then that comes out and also gets belted down to the hub. Last but not least, we have a green 3-piece hexagon. So we're going to have to deal with that. Now we want to, I suppose it doesn't really matter, but I do prefer to colour before cut. But when we don't need two belts of that shape because we only have one of the others. But we'll colour first anyway, so we'll go and get that set up, as well as colouring the white, the flower white, and then we'll cut the hexagon and belt that across. Okay, let's do that. Actually, on second thought, we do need to do that, of course, but because we're still just drafting here, we'll just pretend that that's done and we're now belting in the final bottom shape here. And because it's on the bottom, we want the left on top. We'll copy that once again and throw that in here. The final bottom shape comes in here. This is currently going to be bypassed, but we'll fix that when we don't need it anymore. And that gets back into this a line that goes straight to the hub. Now, gone ahead and finished our galactic lotus. Fantastic. Let's go back to this design and reset again. I do believe we can just eliminate all of that. And maybe we want to keep the white though. And I would like to, I think, push all of this paint back one, just to give us a little bit more space. So let's fix that up, and everything else should be fine. Okay, so I'll get rid of any excess here, and copy all of this. Hopefully that works out. And we'll just space it in like so. So this should be the flower coming through, but it's going to be painted white, so we won't let it come through just yet. We'll grab another painter. Put that down here. We also have a green hexagon as well, so we'll need that painted too. And we want green coming in, which we can belt from here, I suppose. But let's do the first thing first, okay? So this uncolored flower, we want that red. So let's borrow from here and pipe that red in, and we want yellow, okay, which we can get from here. Nope, there we go. That can come across. Just fix up that white. We may even want to future-proof that. Okay, there we go. We got it. Yep. Perfect. Now back to the white we needed. We had purple going into that, I think. So let's fix that back up. Oop. It is. Doesn't want to automatically. Put in tunnel plus. It's interesting, but okay. We can handle that. Oh, right. We didn't have purple though. We had teal, didn't we? Okay. Let's do that instead. No, not blue. Naughty. There we go. So the white does eventually make it here. That's good. But we still need to pipe the green. We can see our bypass is working nicely. We just need to connect it up to the hub like so. So we're creating both of these shapes at the moment as planned. And that's looking just great. Okay, where's this green? We want the green up here, right? They're going to be kind to us. No, we can't tunnel that far. Alright. How else can we accomplish this? We can go like that. That seems pretty straightforward. And then we just need to get that white through. Like so. Now let us allow ourselves a bit of room here by putting in a tunnel so that we have room to cut this shape. Now, so we go to cut and we're looking for the nuclear shape. Yep, and we're going to need 2 inputs, like so. We'll only need the 1 output, so we can connect them both together. And let's send that one through. Down the end, I was just checking up here on the left hand side, we got the right orientation, and it looks like we do already. So it's starting in the top right quadrant there, which is what we've got just here. And I think that's pretty much it. All the paint is correctly routed. All these additional shapes are as well. We just need to wait for the counts to jump up, and then we can start getting rid of that bypass. And then once that second shape is complete, that bypass. And then once the third shape is complete here, we can get rid of this bypass. It pays to plan ahead. I hope you guys have been able to follow all of that. Now all we really need to do is wait. There we have our first shape just complete with the uncolored hexagonal. So let's get rid of that bypass here. Now we should only be producing these 2. And now that we've gotten rid of our uncolored, we can go straight and attach this output to this stacker here. So now we'll be producing both this shape and that shape in tandem. Alright, now that that shape's complete, we can get rid of this bypass, so that now we'll only be creating that one here. So now that we're only creating this shape, we can now add this line to this final stacker and start on the 12K of this final shape. Because we need so much of this compared to only the 5,000 of the other, we could even do something a little bit tricky here and divide this lane up some more. So if we then add that all in, we'll get rid of this bypass. So we split this lane up into 5 now, and only 1/5 of this shape here is going to make it back to the hub, whereas 4/5 of that shape is now going to be used to create that final shape. So we can do that to even this out. Not that it's a big deal, because we still need the 5,000 regardless. It just means that I guess we can leave this running for longer without needing to baby it and unlock that soon. We see, thankfully, that this is counting up, which means we've correctly made our factory. Can we zoom in even further? Look at that. Wonderful. And we've still got our other milestone, pardon me, plugging away here. thankful to see that it's at a full 12 belts. It's brilliant. And it looks like we have ourselves a full unloader too, which is what we want to see. Let's check out those trains really quickly. Most of them are coming back empty, which is fantastic. Another couple of full ones coming through, and a third. Brilliant. Seems to be working very well, actually. Very happy with that. This is still going strong. Fantastic. Okay, back to the hub. Now we play the waiting game. Now I know we've divided this into 5, but 5 times 5 is 25, where we don't need that much, so we might reduce it. Now we've divided it by 4, because that was catching up too quickly. So obviously 5 times 5 is 20, but if we divide it by 3, maybe that's better. No. Yes? Yeah, that's fine. If we finish the last one just before the previous, I'm not concerned about that. Let's let this run for a bit. I've just realised something. My math wasn't right. Because of the way of this setup. This lane isn't 25%. It's being halved each time it's split. So we have 50% each, and then 25% each, and then 12.5% each. So this is actually 1/8, which means we definitely need to get rid of this one. And we may even need to get rid of this one now because that last shape is significantly ahead. So we just halve it. We have 1.5k and 2k to go, so that'll be fine. We don't need this long route anymore either. Okay, almost done. Alright, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. We've finally completed the layered petals. Fantastic. So with this video, we've been able to complete 1, 2, 3 separate side tasks, as well as setting up that second hub for a previous milestone. And that's about it. This is the setup for that latest, like so. And coming in with 4 belts. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching and following along. And until next time, have a blessed week. Bye for now.